CURES is sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.
Helping you lead a healthier life. This is CURES.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kara Sundlin. Welcome to the CURES TV show and podcast, where we explore cutting-edge wellness from credible sources. My guest today is a modern-day spiritual guide. He wasn't always that way. He actually worked in finance, and he has a new book called Invincible. And in honor of May being Mental Health Awareness Month, we're going to talk about the notion that you are not broken. That transformation doesn't come from trying to fix ourselves. It really comes from mastering how we see ourselves. I think it's such a great message, and I want to welcome Howard Falco to the show. Thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, let's get into it a little bit in that you weren't always perhaps a modern-day spiritual guide. You had a background of striving and achieving like so many of us, right?
That's exactly right. I wanted to achieve the American dream, and I was killing myself trying to do it. Married, 2 kids, checking everything off the list, but something was missing. I needed a deeper understanding about the nature of life and what we're doing here and what real happiness was about.
So you work now in helping people who still have a lot of goals, athletes, CEOs, all of that. How do we move from not thinking we have to just get better at something or fix our faults to becoming, as you say, a master of seeing ourselves different?
Well, that comes through the process of self-awareness and seeing really what are the deep beliefs that we're really operating out of. Because if we're constantly searching for perfection in the world, we're never going to find it. We have to find that perfection first and foremost within ourselves through the truth that we've all been doing the best we can in every moment of our journey. There is no other truth than that. That doesn't mean we can't get better in the next moment. And that doesn't mean we condone things or we want previous things that we've done to happen again. But we understand that it's been a part of our process. It's what makes us human, and that every day we're learning. And when we have that kind of compassion for ourselves, it opens up a flood of new energy and belief and honor and respect for who we are, which really fuels the creative process.
You know, I certainly can be guilty of this. You know, I was definitely one of those students trying to always get an A, or even now, you know, we work in an industry. I think I've grown in that department of the self-compassion. And I get what you're saying. When we can remember to do that, everything changes. But for those people who are out there saying, I can't just let go of the to-do list and these goals. I need to keep striving. That's the only way I'm going to get somewhere. It's so programmed in us. So what do you say to that?
There's nothing wrong with striving to be better. The point is, from what state of mind are you doing it? Are you doing it because you don't feel you're good enough with where you're at right now? Then that's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you're always going to find trouble. You're always going to find regret. You're going to find guilt if it's still in you. So that's why self-awareness and self-understanding is so important to, shall I say, cleansing the soul so that you can express fully who you are, and you can have that energy go out and help you create more and more powerfully. With athletes, this is huge, because when they see and believe and feel more worthy of who they are, that's when they're able to break through the next level. But when they don't feel that, or they've worked so hard to get to a level and they're scared of moving forward because they don't believe they can do it, they don't believe they're worthy of it, they just simply stay where they're at, or actually retrench. So for the invincible mindset, as I write in the book, it's so important to see more of your true worth. And that's what the process of self-awareness is about.
So you wrote the book Invincible, and you had your own spiritual awakening, I guess, at the tender age of 14. So you still went on to do all these adult things of what Americans check off as success. But talk a little bit about that and why you decided to ask so many different questions or become what you're doing now.
Yeah, it's a great question. So when I was 14 was the first time I was taken on a camping trip away from the city lights. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. So we were up near the Canadian border. And the first night I walked out to the end of this dock by our cabin, I looked up. And when I looked up, I could not believe the amount of stars I was seeing in the sky above my head. It literally, physically, and spiritually blew my mind. And on that night, so many questions were asked about the nature of existence and life. All these existential questions were born that put me on a path to hopefully one day get the answers to these questions. So I went through a regular life. My parents got divorced in my mid-teens. I left home to go out west to go to school. I graduated, I got married, had kids, but the whole time, these deep questions, wanting to understand the bigger picture of life, still nagged at me. And it was at 35 that I had the breakthrough where my mind opened up, and from one minute to the next, answers just poured in. It was the most amazing, miraculous experience. And that's what caused this whole shift in me where I decided to take this great insight that was revealed, I guess, for lack of a better word, about how life works with each one of us and share it and try
So,
and share it with the widest audience possible.
so
Because I was just a regular guy, just coaching club baseball for my son in middle life, in the middle of life. And I thought, why can't everybody else know this? They would feel so much better about themselves if they knew this insight.
well, we all want to know. I know that you have a whole book, Invincible, The Mindset of Infinite Potential and the Secret of Inevitable
Right.
Success. But tell me a little bit, like, what revelation do you want us to understand?
I want people to understand that they are a perfect unfolding in each moment with the level of understanding and awareness that they've had through their nurturing, their upbringing, the genetics that have been passed on to them. So everybody's been doing the best they can. But if you're tired of the way things have been, if you want things to change, if you feel like you've had too much suffering, then the journey of self-awareness opens you up to your true worth. If you're birthed into existence, you matter. That is the undeniable truth. If you're here, you matter. And if life has nurtured you through the cosmos to this point, why wouldn't it continue to nurture you and continue to help you? And the more you open up and you sort of make that connection that life is here truly to serve my creative expression, then you start to see that more. And there's more synchronicity and there's more flow. I open the book, Kara, with a great quote. It says, "If you knew how powerful you really are, you would never stop smiling."
Yeah, I love that. And I think when we're in our best selves, I really want to remember that. We all get caught though, you run into financial difficulties or health problems. So what's your advice when people are going through stuff and they're starting to question if everything's going to be okay?
Right. And that's natural to do that, to have doubt. It's when fear takes over the process that you start making decisions, start having thoughts and decisions that start to take you down the wrong path and make things worse and start the spiral. So what I would say is to have more of an open mind on what the true possibilities are. When we're in a negative state, we tend to only focus on the negative outcomes. But if you can realize one fundamental truth about life is that anything is possible in every moment. And when you can open up and widen your perspective on that so you can see more possibilities and you have more of a balanced mind. Okay, I know this has happened. This is where we're heading, but I'm going to put my mind on the most optimistic outcome. Life has an interesting way of helping you find those outcomes and creating miracles in your life. But it has to start from a place of faith, that you trust the process of life and you're doing everything you can to honor yourself through the process, to learn based on what got you to the trouble you're having, to make adjustments and to move forward. And I've dealt with, thousands of people now over the last 20 years that have been in this process, have been in some tough situations. And because of a shift of mind, slowly but surely, things started to change in a dramatic fashion. And, that's why I put the whole process in the book.
Yeah, the book is called Invincible. What does it really mean in your world to be invincible, and how does anyone get there? I know you believe anyone can.
So to have the invincible mindset is to understand that you have the ultimate control, power, and authority of how you're going to look at yourself, honor yourself, respect yourself, and demonstrate who you are in every moment. And you're prepared then for anything that can happen. You're not thrown off balance as much when the negativity of the world tries to pull you under, which it seems to be trying to do lately. You're more prepared for it because you're in a different state of being, respect, and honor. And that carries an incredible energy with it that allows you to rise above it and dictate the way you want your experience to go. And I guess going back to your previous question, that's one of the biggest messages in the book, that you truly have the power over how your experience gets shaped and how that needle of probability shifts in your favor in life.
Yeah, can we
And the
do
more
it?
you can do it, the more you experience it.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit. I know you also give some practical tips, but let's just talk about, average person, right? We're busy parents. I've got 2 kids as well. Daughter going off to college. People who are watching are thinking, gosh, this all sounds great, but what do I do? And I know part of that question is learning how to be instead of just do, but what are some things, some practical things that you can help people start to shift to be invincible? Maybe start with how they wake up.
Yeah. So again, the work like this or any other great work on self-awareness out there to understand how your identity shapes your experience. Once you realize how it has shaped your experience and you start to see some of the things you've believed about yourself that have been in your subconscious sort of affecting your life, and you now see, wow, my mother said that to me when I was 6, or my father said something negative to me when I was 10, and I believe that my whole life. Do I have to believe it? Does that belief serve me? And does it help me in creating what I'm looking to create in the world? The other thing you can do is I have a great exercise in the book called a creed, where you write down a new set of ideals for who you are, who you want to be, or who you're becoming that start with I am, which is a very powerful self-defining statement. And that becomes sort of a wheel greaser for you every day, where you look at this list that you wrote about, kind of the direction you want to go in life, and you read it, and it sets your mind in a place to remind you as you go through your day and things happen that you have power over how you're going to respond. And Kara, it's in that response that changes everything. Because where previously you automatically got roped into negativity, or you started thinking negatively about yourself or talking negatively, now you say, nope, not doing that today. Today's going to be a good day. I'm going to focus on positivity. I'm going to focus on who I want to be in this world, and I'm going to trust that, because I know that will serve me better. And it's these little changes every day in how we shape our identity that eventually goes to the surface of our life.
Yeah. I mean, the words.
And there's example after example in the book of that.
Yeah. And the words I am, I know you wrote another book called I Am, but just for people who maybe haven't heard this, I tell my kids this when they say, if they're getting frustrated, I'm stupid, or like, no. We don't ever want to put something after the word I am. It goes back for thousands of years in spiritual traditions. I am is a power word, right? What do we need to understand about that, and how do we use it? Since I know you wrote a whole nother book on that.
It's a great question. So what we need to understand is that, again, this is an infinitely creative universe. You're part of this universe. That means you have the ability to infinitely create within you as a human being. So how you define yourself is not only going to determine the energy of your thoughts, responses, and actions, but the part that really blew me away when this was revealed, or I discovered this, is that life is meeting us to try and have us experience exactly who we believe that we are, good or bad. That's how important it is to have the right sense of understanding of who you are. And I'll give a tip for people that can't embrace an I am that they don't believe yet. I am a good person. I am positive and loving every day. Insert one word in between that and just say, I am becoming more loving every day. I am becoming more positive and more successful. And just that idea itself will shift your energy, your responses, and the way people treat you. They'll recognize on a subconscious level who you are, because the world will treat you based on who you believe you are in business, in relationships, in sports, in life. So that's how powerful those self-defining statements are.
That's really important.
But you can't
repeat that. Like,
you can't fool the universe, though.
Yeah, I just want to go back and repeat that. What you said, the world will treat you based on who you believe you are. Is that what you said? I want to just repeat that.
Yes. And that's kind of the below the surface, if you want to call it mystical, intuitive way that life works with us. It's trying to help us create, but how? Based on our truth. That's what I've discovered. It's our truth, not who we think we are, but what we really believe about ourselves at the deepest level. So to embrace more of an invincible mindset is to understand what creates the optimal thoughts, feelings about oneself, and truths to be able to live your life out in that way.
Yeah. So when we want to take that road of invincibility, and you're thinking, this sounds good, but I don't believe, I want to say I am wealthy, but I don't believe that because I have all these bills that I don't have enough to pay right now, or something like that. What you're saying is, you would say, I am becoming financially free, or I am aligning with the
Becoming,
best
yeah,
job for me. I mean, I guess,
exactly.
how do you
Very
undo?
good.
If you grew up poor, people will say, well, I don't know how you can believe that I'm that, even though that's what I want to be, because I've only known this.
Right. And that's why becoming is such an important word. I am becoming smarter with money. Well, instead of not having a budget and just winging it every week, now you have a budget. Now it's defined. Now you're making small changes. Now, instead of making purchases without reading a contract, where it ends up costing you way more than if you went online or you did some research or you found a better deal somewhere. And all these little changes start to add up for you to becoming much more smarter with money. And you do that more days of your life, and all of a sudden your financial situation starts to shift and it becomes much easier for you to start having more money because you've made all the little changes that have come from a new belief that you are able to adopt. If you didn't want to say, I am wealthy, you say, I am becoming wealthy. I am becoming smarter with money. And then you put it to the test. Are you acting out of that? Are you responding in your world? Or are you still sort of adhering to the old subconscious beliefs that kept pulling you in the opposite direction? This is about a major shift in identity of who you are for those that are really ready for true change and embracing more of that incredible creative power that flows through us every day. It's actually amazing how much power we have.
Yeah, yeah. I love the quote at the beginning of the book. We would be smiling if we really understood it. We're going to take a brief break to hear from our sponsor. We'll be right back to talk a little bit more about how we can all become invincible.
Struggling with gambling? Wheeler Health's Better Choice program offers personalized support and treatment to help you regain control. Visit WheelerHealth.org to learn more and take the first step towards recovery today.
And I'm back with Howard Falco, who is the author of the book Invincible, and he's teaching us about how our mindset really impacts what we see in the external of our world. So we appreciate you being here. I love your message. You are not broken. We are not someone who has to be fixed. Doesn't mean we can't improve, but we're not broken. We're not missing anything. How do you mentioned you're a father, and I think so many of us have worked on ourselves. I love personal empowerment and change. One of the reasons I do this show, right? But I have kids, and I think, gosh, if I had known all this when I was 15 or something,
Yeah,
how do we
exactly.
impart
Right.
to our children and teach them what we now know to be truth so that they can become more invincible?
The way that I and my wife have found the best way to do this is through example, through the way that we live, through our state of mind, through our energy and the dynamic every day in the house for 20 some years with each other, and for teaching lessons when they come up. When there's an opportunity to teach, we teach. When they're ready to read the material, they'll read it. But I think it starts by example in who you are. I think that's truly what kids pick up the most on because they're very perceptive.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, that's one of the messages in your book, why perception is everything. Our perception, as the old saying, is reality. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how we might need to adjust our
Yeah.
perception?
Yeah, another great question. So our perception is based on what we're looking to experience in the world. So if we see a negative world, we're going to lean towards news or entertainment or situations in our life that pull more of that negative in to validate it. When we're looking for more positivity in the world, we find more of that energy. So to be aware of what it is, the beliefs that you're operating out of and how they're contributing to your experience of life is vital, because at least then you can decide whether or not you want to carry these truths about the world, or can you look at the world in a more balanced way? Can you see more of the good in life for yourself and for others? Because the minute that you do, as I said earlier, you start to experience this more. The world responds to you in kind based on how you see it. So awareness is the whole key to it. If you're not aware of it, you can't change it. So that's, again, why self-awareness is so critical to your empowerment.
So if you're aware that perhaps you have a belief that's not serving you, and I think that's really a core message, that we are not I know people say we're our thoughts, we're really our beliefs. And so you're working at, let's change the belief. If you start realizing I have this belief that maybe I'm not worthy of all this I'm writing down and trying to create. People have read The Secret, they've read whatever, they're trying to manifest.
Exactly.
And then what you're kind of saying is something might be getting in the way. If deep down you have a belief you're not worthy of what you're trying to create.
Right. Well, what's getting in the way is that truth, because that's how life is coming back to you. How can life serve you if you don't believe you're worthy of it? And some people have been so strong at creating in pop culture that they've been able to create unbelievable amounts of stuff, but they didn't have the construction of the belief underneath it. Eventually it collapses. And then other people have a strong belief in what they want to do, but don't have the worth and they never get it created. So it's really important to understand, what is your intent? What do you want to experience in life? And then you can see whether or not the beliefs that you hold, the feelings that you have, the fears, the need, does that serve you? Or is there another way that you can begin to look at yourself that can give you your power back, that can allow you to go through life with a different energy? Now, there you will be tested, and you'll have to demonstrate, for lack of a better word, faith in the connection with life that brought you to this moment and even to these words. That life is continually going to serve you and help you, either A, give you what you're trying to create, or expose to you the information that you need to absorb in order to help move that needle of probability closer to what you want to create. So it's a process of awareness is what really at the core, I would say, life is about.
Definitely being aware. And then I know we're talking a lot about energy, and as Oprah said, she's been saying it for decades. It may seem new to people now, but that we are all energy. And some of this people might say, oh, that sounds like magical thinking. In some ways, what you're saying, we do have the ability to create some magic, but it's how we're going to interpret it. I went to a graduation speech recently, and I wanted you to expand on maybe how we can put this topic into practicality. But the advice to the students was that when you're feeling nervous and overwhelmed, because no amount of reading a book is going to change that. We're going to get nervous. We're going to get overwhelmed. Things are going to happen to us.
Right.
She said, switch your brain and say, I'm excited. I'm excited for what can happen, rather than I'm fearful. Is that sort of the mindset shift that it stuck with me?
Great.
It was meant for the graduates, but I'm like, right, when you start getting worked up and thinking, uh-oh, we all get that way. It did, even for you, that doesn't go away, right?
Right. No, you want to say, this is where I want to be. I tell my athletes, as soon as nerves come in, get ready to own the space. Instead of resisting it, say, no, this is exactly where I want to be. And I want to see how I demonstrate who I am. And I'm up for the challenge and I'm excited about it. That's a very offensive way of going into the process of creation and expanding what you want for yourself, rather than a nervous or a defensive way, which moves the needle towards maybe what you don't want to have happen. So owning the space is really important, because when you do that of mind, of body, of soul, things tend to go your way. And again, I've seen this, and there's plenty of examples in the book about how people have shifted these beliefs, and how just there's been a cascade of new events that have happened, not without challenge first, because life always likes to give us a little challenge just to see if we are who we say we are or who we want to be. Okay, you want to be this? Let's see, prove it right now, because here's a situation for you.
Okay.
It's
so the blessing on the other side of the challenge. I want to bring up the book cover again, if we can, John, just to show people, because it's out now. And if this is something that, as we're talking about mental health awareness in May, but also Memorial Day, kind of the beginning of a new season. We have The Mindset of Infinite Potential and the Secret to Inevitable Success by Howard Falco. It's called Invincible. What are some, in our final less than 5 minutes together, what are maybe 3 things you would like people to start incorporating into their life that can kind of help them shift?
Number 1, know that life is always here to help serve you in your creative expression. And if you can just open that door a little bit, that when you're in your deepest, darkest hour, there may be just a little window of hope that things can change. And that's all you need, is just a little crack in the window. Number 2, nobody avoids the process of self-awareness. You have to be able to reflect on how you got there without any guilt, any shame, any regret, but just an understanding that for every moment of your life, you've done the best you can to get to this very moment. And third, to know that anything is possible, and life is about the unfoldment of creation. So when you go through a process, whether you succeed or you have a short-term setback, either way, it's a win-win. If you succeed, obviously you're feeling good about who you are. You can embrace that, shift to a new level. If you don't, there's going to be information in that process for you. Something is in that lack of success that's trying to get to you to help you put another condition together to get closer to what you really want. And again, this could be in a relationships, being successful with a relationship. It can be in business, it can be in sports, or it can be in your daily walk of trying to find peace every day. But the process is the same.
You mentioned you're married. Is it important or helpful that you be on this path with your spouse?
Well, it's important that you have a supportive spouse. Whether or not they're on the path, that's up to their free will, because this is, you have to really be ready for this path and the information, because it's going to create change, even though it's really positive. So it's just important that you have a supportive spouse, because they are your partner in life. I'll be 31 years married this week, so I'm excited about that. But thank you. But it's important that they're supporting you on the journey. And it's amazing things happen as your energy shifts and becomes more positive, almost by osmosis. It goes into family members and they start to realize, wow, what is that? I'd like to learn about that. So that can happen as well.
Yeah. And also when you're in maybe a spot of more fear, your partner could lift you out, or vice versa, like kind of recognizing where the other person is, because we're never 100% all the time.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes a great relationship, is when you're having a bad day, the other person can help lift you, or they give you grace when things aren't great, and vice versa, you give them grace when things aren't going great. That's one of the true tenets of a great relationship, besides respect and love and honor and all the other things.
Yeah. We only have 90 seconds left before I show you where you can get the book again. I'm curious. A lot of people talk about meditation, prayer, journaling. Do you think it's important to have those quiet times to yourself? Is that part of the process?
It's definitely part of the process, because in those quiet moments, you get the reflection, and that truth is able to surface. When your mind quiets down, the real truth that wants to come into your consciousness without even thinking can show up. Yeah. So journaling and meditating are a great way to allow that awareness to come to the surface of your mind, so you can get those intuitive moments, clarity, and that inspiration.
Yeah, I think, when I live a very fast life, like many of us do with busyness, but when we can shift, down to our heart space, I think you get good at feeling that. But we're in a better place than when those of us who get stuck up in our head. So,
exactly. And it has an impact on the next days, on the days that follow.
Okay.
Because it carries over. Energy, it's so important. Yeah.
The book, once again, it's called Invincible. It's available everywhere. The Mindset of Infinite Potential and the Secret to Inevitable Success by Howard Falco. Howard, thank you for sharing your time with us on CURES Cures. Everyone watching at home, we hope you have a great day and be well. And if you're on the podcast, make sure to like, subscribe, share it with someone who also wants to become invincible. Howard, thank you for being with us. Have a great day. And have a great day, everyone out there, and be well.
CURES, sponsored by Wheeler Health's Better Choice program. More at wheelerhealth.org.